Warning, this podcast contains themes of extreme violence and murder. Subject matter may be offensive to some listeners. Discretion advised.
Welcome to another episode of Evil Transgression, your homicide headquarters here in podcasting. I'm Josh, and with me as always, Dustin and Rex.
Hello.
Hey, what's up?
2 episodes in a row that
it's a miracle.
That you're here with us.
Yeah, I'm here.
Well,
that's that.
I'm here because we got all kinds of messages saying that they missed me. So,
oh yeah, I saw a bunch of those.
Figured I'd come back and,
I was at a birthday party the other day, and one of our listeners said, "Man, I really love you guys' show because when you guys make fun of Dustin, that's hilarious." And they were like, "Is it Dustin that always gets a vacation? He takes like 15 vacations a year." I was like, "That's Dustin.
That's the one."
That reminds me of when we was at your birthday thing.
Oh yeah,
and me and Josh are sitting there talking, and one of your sisters was like, "That's Dustin. You can tell by his voice."
Yes. Yep.
I'm like, "Oh, yeah.
Perfect.
Yes, that's him.
That's me.
That's Dustin."
Yeah.
So everybody's doing well.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's good.
You got any cool names for us today?
I don't have cool names. I'm going to go back to evil facts today.
Okay.
Boo.
I just want to mix it up. And I'm still looking for another idea to throw in there too, just to keep everybody on their toes.
Right.
Do it.
But the reason I chose to do evil facts today is because it's gonna go along with the episode.
Oh, okay.
So these facts that I have will play into the episode.
Sweet.
Are you sure?
Yeah. I like to be organized somewhat. Sometimes.
Are you sure?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a pretty easy correlation because we're going to be talking about a death sentence today. So I figured we'd do a few facts on the death penalty.
Okay.
Oh, the death penalty has always been intriguing to me.
Very, very much so.
Yes.
And I have some pretty good facts as far as public opinion on the death penalty. So I went to a research page. I'm not making these facts up. They're not like Steve on Reddit made these facts up. I went to the Pew Research Center, which is a nonpartisan fact tank that informs the public about the issues, attitudes, and trends shaping the world. That was actually on their website.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
they do public opinion polling and demographic research. So these are real facts.
Okay.
So let's do some evil facts.
Evil facts.
Let's start with 6 in 10 U.S. adults, so 60%, strongly or somewhat favor the death penalty for convicted murderers. So 60% of adults in the United States are like, kill them.
That's good.
I can guarantee you that 100% of adults are for the death penalty when it comes to pedophiles.
I don't know. I bet you there's still not
some
100%.
bleeding hearts out there.
Yeah.
I bet
You can't.
He doesn't deserve that.
he can change.
Yeah, right.
I'm not even going to say it. I'm not even going to say it.
Well, similarly, it says that 64% say the death penalty is morally justified when someone commits a crime like murder. So if only 64% of people think that the death penalty is justified for murder, I don't see them saying it 100% for pedophiles.
Right.
Well, 100% of me says it should happen.
That's all
100% of this room says it should happen.
But I agree with that. So, another fact is the views of death penalty differ by religious affiliation. So it says around 2/3 of Protestants in the U.S., 66% of Protestants in the United States favor capital punishment. It says 75% of white evangelical Protestants agree with it. 73% of white non-evangelical Protestants agree with it. And 50% of black Protestants agree with it. So around 6 in 10 Catholics, 58%, also support capital punishment, which also includes 61% of Hispanic Catholics and 56% of white Catholics.
So it sounds like pretty much everybody's on the same page.
Yes, until you look at atheists.
Oh, well, they're freaks anyways.
It says atheists oppose the death penalty about as strongly as Protestants favor it.
Interesting.
So your religious beliefs weigh into whether you think someone should ride the lightning. That's pretty interesting.
It is.
That people that don't believe in God are like, we shouldn't kill them. People that do are like,
Kill them.
light them up.
Yeah.
I just, like, with me, like, whenever, like, during, like, executions, like, I sit back and think, like, did they really do it? And the one that gets me every time is Carlos de Luna. I think he did not do it, and he got executed. But that's just me.
I mean, it could happen.
I got a Netflix show on him.
Yeah.
So, I don't think he did it.
Well, you can't always go off of
Netflix
entertainment documentaries.
No.
Honestly. And the best thing that I've ever heard somebody say with that, and I might have said it before on the show, because I know we've talked about West Memphis 3, and me being a part of that group where the guy said, that because Paradise Lost, it starts off like saying these kids did it, and then it turns basically to where they're saying, nah, they didn't do it, the police department. And, people that have only watched those certain documentaries where they're in favor of these kids not doing it, will always agree that those guys are innocent.
Oh, yeah.
But people that have done research outside of watching entertainment documentaries, like that's what they are, they're entertainment, have different opinions. And the guy said, I don't watch Die Hard and think that's how every Christmas is.
Have you ever read the story of Carlos de Luna?
No. Guilty.
Do it. No, do it.
Guilty.
Like that? No, because it's two. There's another Carlos that's involved. And he even came out and said, after they executed him, he came out and said, like, pretty much I did it.
What?
So
why didn't they execute him?
Because he was never charged with it.
What a dick.
So you should check it out. It's very interesting.
Carlos Mencia.
Carlos de Luna.
Oh, okay.
De Luna.
De Luna.
Yes.
Of the moon. Is that what that means?
Yes.
Maybe.
Yeah. Luna.
De Luna.
No, we're done. We're done with that.
Okay, so the last fact I have for today on the death penalty is the average time between sentencing and execution in the U.S. has increased sharply since the 1980s.
What is it, like 15, 20 years now?
We complain about. Like, why do they wait so long? So it went like, during the 80s, we're looking about 6-7 years, 6.5 years, to the latest data that we really can tell difference is in 2019 when the average executed prisoner had been on death row for 22 years.
Wow. So I was kind of close. I said 15 to 20.
Yeah.
22 years average time on death row.
Well, you want to make sure you're killing the person that actually did it. But if it's clear and like,
bro, if it takes you 22 years,
right?
20.
It's all the
what
appeals.
it is. Yeah, it's appeals. to pills. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That's the comedian, what's his name, Ron White.
Oh, yeah.
About his special when he's like, if there, and it is true, like that's the way it should be. If there is 3 credible witnesses that say that you committed murder, it should be instant.
Yeah.
Like if you are 100% guilty, ain't no appeals.
Yeah.
There shouldn't be none.
They got so many appeals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to exhaust them all, and then you can do, what is it? Habeas. Yeah. Habeas corpus. Writ of habeas corpus.
Yep.
And that's all formality just to get to habeas corpus.
Yeah.
But if you've been spotted by 3 eyewitnesses, it should be instant.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I don't get either is the
What?
fact that, and I might get some hate on this one, but the fact that women do not get executed. You know, they just had that woman down there in Texas that she was scheduled to be executed a couple months ago, and they gave her a stay. But they execute all the men. It's like, why? Why is that?
We'll have to figure that out.
Yeah. I don't know.
Women don't get executed at the same rate as men. There's not as many women on death row as men. But there's as many women that have done bad crimes like men. They just get life in prison.
Well, I mean, that also goes with race and age and stuff like that as well.
Yeah.
Right.
You can pick apart anything.
I'm just saying, let's equal the playing field here.
You know who didn't get a stay of execution? Eileen Wuornos.
Yes.
She's like the last woman executed. And that was in the 90s.
Poor Eileen.
Oh, yeah. Crazy bitch.
So today on today's episode, we're gonna do an interesting one to me because it was the last public execution in the United States, like that was done in the public.
Wow.
I'm not talking televised. I'm not talking. This wasn't Timothy McVeigh's done through closed circuit TV or something where they had it.
Probably.
Yeah. Well, this was done in person, like a freaking event.
Like a carnival.
Like a carnival, exactly.
Wow. Were they selling cotton candy?
I'm sure there was like balloon animals being made. Clowns walking around like, yeah, get your hot dogs here.
That's what I want to see is the dude get his neck snapped by a weenie.
So buckle up, Evil Mob, as we discuss Rainey Bethea. Rainey Bethea was born on October 16th, 1909 in Roanoke, Virginia. Now, during this time in America, it was definitely rough for an African-American family.
Oh, yeah.
And Rainey Bethea was an African-American. So things got even harder for Rainey when his mother died in 1919. Things are only going to get worse from there.
So what was he, 10?
Yeah, probably around 10 years old. I mean, he may have been 9, 10, because he was born in October of 1909. So around 10 years old. His father would die in 1926, making Rainey an orphan.
Ooh.
In 1933, Rainey Bethea arrived in Owensboro, Kentucky, where he found work with the Rutherford family. He would live with them, staying in their basement for about a year. After that, Rainey found work as a laborer and got a new start renting a room in a cabin from a Mrs. Charles Brown. But so far in life, Rainey Bethea had been a good law-abiding citizen despite the rough life that he'd had up to this point. Rainey was even a member of a Baptist church. But Rainey would not stay on the straight and narrow for long. In early 1935, he was arrested for the first time and charged with breach of the peace. He was fined $20 and let go. Now that is a broad charge, breach of the peace. Especially in 1935, it could have been anything.
Right.
Especially as an African American in Kentucky.
Yep.
Right.
In April of the same year, 1935, Rainey stole 2 purses from a beauty shop. Because the value of the purses were more than $25, he was convicted of a felony, grand larceny, and sentenced to a year in the Kentucky State Penitentiary in Eddyville.
Ooh.
Because $25 back then was like $8,000 today.
With this inflation, yes.
Yes.
It's a felony. Got hit with a felony for $25.
Thanks, JB.
Rainey was released on parole on December 1st, 1935. So he didn't serve his year. He would return to Owensboro, where he continued to work as a laborer. Less than a month after his release, he was arrested again for breaking into a house. On January 6, 1936, the charge was amended to drunken disorderly, and he was fined $100. But Rainey was unable to pay the $100 fine on his $7 a week salary, and because of that, he remained in jail until April 18th, 1936.
Imagine that. $7 a week. That'd take you forever to get $100.
Yeah.
It's a while.
Now, there is a screw up here because Rainey was still on probation when he was arrested. He should have been sent back to prison. Because he was arrested before, on probation, let out, commits another crime. That's a violation of probation. You should go back. Under Kentucky law, the parole board should have been notified when an offender who is on probation commits another crime, which, like I said, is a violation of parole. The offender is denied probation and sent back to finish his time. This could have stopped what is about to happen. So once again, we're doing a story about coulda, woulda, shoulda. So here we go. During the early morning of June 7th, 1936, Rainey Bethea, under the intoxication of alcohol, decided to do something unforgivable. He climbed up onto a roof of a neighboring house where he made his way to the window of 70-year-old Licia Edwards. Rainey removed the screen from her window and climbed in. When he entered the room, Edwards woke up. Rainey then strangled Edwards and raped her. When Edwards was dead, Rainey went through the room searching for valuables. He found jewelry and began trying on the rings. This would lead to his demise. See, Rainey, who had been in jail before, had what they call a black celluloid ring that he had taken off to try on the woman's rings. And celluloid rings were a big thing in prison. Like, they made these black plastic celluloid rings. So the mistake was that when Rainey Bethea left the scene with Miss Edwards' jewelry, he accidentally left his ring behind.
What a dumbass.
Yeah.
After leaving the scene of the crime, Rainey went to a barn not far from the house and stashed the stolen jewelry. Later that morning, the Smith family, who Licia Edwards was renting a room from, became concerned when they hadn't heard Edwards stirring. They feared that she had become ill, so they went and knocked on her door to check on her. When they got no response, they tried to open the door, but found that it was locked with a skeleton key still in the lock from the inside. So the Smith family contacted a neighbor named Robert Richardson to see if he had any idea how they could get in the room. Richardson decided to get a ladder and climb through the transom above the door to get access to the room. You know what a transom is, right?
No.
You remember, like, the old schoolhouses, how you had the window above the door that opened up to let air in? And that's your transom.
Okay.
Which does not sound like it would be an easy feat to climb through.
No.
Upon doing so, he found Licia Edwards' body. Authorities were notified and an investigation began. During a search of the room, the police discovered muddy footprints throughout the room and the black celluloid ring. Police searched for the murderer for a few days with no success. Rainey was already on the run. Rainey became the prime suspect when several residents told police they had seen him wear that black celluloid ring. Because Rainey had a criminal record, the authorities used a new technique to verify that he had indeed been in the room. Any guesses what they used? Talking mid-30s.
What is it? Powder.
Powder.
With the thing.
Powder with
the thing. Yeah, that was it.
They get fingerprints with.
Fingerprinting.
Yeah,
That's
there
correct.
you
They used powder. They used
Powder with the
talcum
brush.
powder.
Powder with the thing. I don't know what it's called.
The search was now on for Rainey Bethea. So a few days after the murder, you have identified a suspect finally, and he's nowhere to be found. Until Bert Red Figgins,
What?
Huh. Different.
who was working on the bank of the Ohio River, spotted an African-American man lying under some bushes. Figgins asked the man what he was doing, and Bethea told him he was cooling off. I was cooling off hiding under these bushes. It's hot out there. Let me hide in these bushes.
Can you say his name one more time?
Bert Red Figgins?
That's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, Red?
I want that name.
Bert Figgins?
I might change my name
You
to
should.
Bert Figgins.
I like it.
Bert Figgins?
Can you imagine? Walking up in somewhere. How you doing? I'm Bert Figgins.
Bert Figgins from Kentucky.
Oh, man.
They call me Red.
For some reason.
So Figgins knows something's not right, so he reports the sighting to his supervisor named Will Faith.
Oh, okay.
So we got some awesome names.
Yeah.
And asked Will Faith to call the police because he thought the man was acting quite suspicious. Before the police could arrive, Rainey had moved and headed towards a grocery store. Supervisor Will Faith followed him and went into the store. Inside the store, Faith finds a police officer who just happened to be there and tells him what's going on. But once again, like the wind, Bethea had fled and was nowhere to be found. Later on, Rainey was spotted again on the riverbank. This time, however, he was cornered after he tried to jump onto a barge on the river. He's trying to escape, jump on this barge. Police captured him, and when they questioned him, he denied being Rainey Bethea and instead claimed he was James Smith.
Oh, okay.
That's not an ordinary plain Jane name. The name's James Smith. The police went along with the fake name because they feared that if the residents who were present at the time of his capture knew who he was, a mob would develop.
Oh, God.
After his arrest, Bethea was identified by a scar that he had on the left side of his head. Now, the fear of a lynch mob was real. Remember, we were talking about a young black man who has killed an elderly white woman in Kentucky in the 1930s.
Right.
So because of that fear of a lynch mob, the judge of the Daviess County Circuit Court ordered Bethea to be transferred to the Jefferson County Jail in Louisville. During the transfer, Rainey made his first confession of killing Licia Edwards. He admitted to killing and raping her, but stated that he didn't know if she was alive or not when he raped her.
What?
And why does that matter? Well, because at the time in Kentucky, it was not illegal to have intercourse with a corpse.
What?
So,
Seems weird.
Yeah.
we've talked about necrophilia before and how it wasn't illegal in some states.
Right.
So, in Kentucky during 1930s, it wasn't illegal to have raped a dead person.
Crazy.
Now, I know you're probably thinking, who cares? He murdered some lady, but this will be critical in the end. You'll see. While incarcerated, Rainey Bethea confessed a second time, this time in front of a notary public and a reporter from the Courier Journal. This was done because officials were afraid it would be said that they coerced a confession from him. So they made sure they had a notary public and a reporter on hand. But they didn't have to worry because on June 12th, Rainey confessed for a third time to the captain of the guards. This time he told them where he had hidden the jewelry he had stolen from Licia Edwards. And sure enough, they found the jewelry right where he said it would be. Now this is where the detail of whether Edwards was alive or dead during the rape comes into play. Remember, I said if she was dead, they couldn't charge him with rape.
Yeah.
Well, the law was different at the time in Kentucky on rape and murder. Murder and robbery could be punished by the electric chair. But rape? Now get this, how this has changed over the years. Rape could be punished by public hanging in the county that the crime had occurred.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
That's... I don't see how that shouldn't still be a thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Just so if you murder and rob somebody, we're going to stick you in the electric chair.
Yeah.
If you rape someone, we're going to hang you in front of everyone.
That's crazy.
We could still do that.
Yeah, I think so.
So prosecutors decided to avoid any legal dilemmas of whether they were going to try and electrocute him or hang Bethea. They decided to only charge him with rape.
Ooh.
They're like, we ain't even going to put up the murder one because we want to hang him in front of everyone. At trial, the first 12 people of the 111 people called for jury duty were selected. And again, during this time, only white males were allowed to serve on a jury in America. So you have little Rainey Bethea. I say little because he was only 5'4" 3/8 inch.
Oh, wow.
Who was a young black man being tried by 12 white men.
He's a tiny little guy.
Seems fair.
But the fact that he admitted to killing and raping the woman, I don't know if, whether fair or not, it factors into the equation.
Yeah.
But
True.
totally biased jury. Rainey pleaded guilty, but the prosecutor still presented its case against him. And when the time came for the jury to do their thing, the judge told the jury that since Rainey Bethea had pled guilty already, all they had to do was come up with his punishment. Their options were 10 years to 20 years to be served in prison or death. Now, that's a hell of a difference there.
Right.
Yeah.
Not even life in prison. Just death.
Yeah.
He's either going to get a 10 to 20 sentence or death.
Oh, man.
Yeah, no life in prison there at all. It's you either barely punish him or you kill him. After only 4.5 minutes, the jury came back with the sentence of death by hanging. Took him 4.5 minutes.
It's pretty quick.
It was probably like a 4-minute walk to and from the court.
Yeah.
For them to go in like, yep, hang him, and walk back out.
It was like, remember the movie Jury Duty? When after they hear the trial and they go in to deliberate and they're walking in, they're like, he's guilty. And they're all like, every one of them is saying he's guilty. Like, even walking in before they even talk.
Yeah.
That's probably what it was.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Now let the circus begin. Bethea was then sent back to Jefferson County Jail. He then acquired 5 new lawyers, all black men: Charles Tucker, Stephen Burnley, Charles Anderson Jr., Harry Bonaparte, and R. Everett Ray. All 5 men worked without pay to challenge the death sentence of Rainey Bethea. Several motions were filed, but nothing changed. But all of these filings that they knew were going to be denied were just a formality, so they could file a petition for writ of habeas corpus in federal court, like we discussed earlier.
Yeah.
On August 5th, a trial was held, but Judge Elwood Hamilton, that's another sweet name, Elwood,
It is.
denied habeas corpus and the punishment could proceed.
You say Elwood.
Judge Elwood Hamilton.
Isn't that the name of the girl in Legally Blonde?
Elwood. Yeah, her name Elwood. Her name is Elle Wood. This is Elwood.
Oh, Elwood.
Elwood.
I was like, yeah, that's...
So by now, this is a huge news story around the area. But it would only get bigger. In fact, it would become national news when it was discovered that Rainey Bethea's hanging would be the first carried out by a woman sheriff. Sheriff Florence Thompson had become sheriff of Daviess County on April 13th, 1936, after her husband Everett, who was the actual elected sheriff, had died on April 10th. So this became a huge deal across the country.
Yeah.
Several letters were sent to Sheriff Florence Thompson in support of her carrying out the justice, but one letter caught her attention. See, Sheriff Thompson wasn't too excited about being the first woman to lawfully hang a man.
Mm-hmm.
The letter from Arthur Hash, who was a former Louisville police officer, stated that he would offer his services free of charge to perform the execution for her, stating that a mother of 4 children should not have to carry around that burden. All he asked in return was that his name not be released to the public. The fact that we know his name proves that was not a deal that was kept.
Yep.
Thompson accepted the offer, but kept it secret. Another man, G. Phil Hanna, was called in to assist with the hanging. This would be the 70th hanging that Hanna would supervise.
Wow.
He's a pro at it.
I guess so.
On August 13th at 4 p.m., Rainey Bethea ate his last meal, which consisted of pork chops, fried chicken, mashed potatoes, pickled cucumbers, cornbread, lemon pie, and ice cream.
Wow.
It's a hell of a spread for 1936.
Mm-hmm.
Around 1 a.m., he was transported from Louisville to Owensboro, which that is the county that they took him back to the county where it happened.
Mm-hmm.
At 5:21 a.m., Bethea was led from his jail cell by 2 deputies to the scaffold that had been set up in an empty lot adjacent to where he was being held. An estimated 20,000 people had gathered to watch the execution.
What?
Thousands of which had come from out of town to see the spectacle.
That's crazy.
And man, was it a circus. Men, women, children, all scattered about having picnics and stuff, enjoying themselves.
What the hell?
That's insane.
And they're like, yeah, we're going to go watch this guy get hung. Like, I just picture in my mind, like I said, like balloon animals and like clowns walking around, like bands out there playing their banjos to everybody. We're all out here having a good old time. Several news outlets were there to cover the story because everyone still believed it was Sheriff Thompson who was going to pull the switch and send Bethea to his death. Up to this point, only 2 people knew who was really going to do it, and that was Hash and Thompson. The problem was, Hash had shown up to the hanging drunk. And the man who wanted to be discreet in his involvement was wearing this extravagant white suit with like a giant hat on. And like I said, he's shit-faced.
Wow.
He's standing out pretty well.
That's freaking awesome.
I bet.
Nonetheless, Bethea was led to the scaffold where he took his shoes off, put on a new pair of socks, climbed the stairs to the large X he was instructed to stand on. Rainey didn't make any final statements to the massive crowd. A priest spoke to him, and then Rainey was strapped up, a noose was put around his neck, and a black hood was placed over his head by Phil Hanna. I mean, after 70, at least Phil Hanna knew what he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
Hanna stepped back and signaled to Arthur Hash to pull the switch. But he was so drunk, he just stood there.
Oh. Wow.
Just picture him.
Huh?
Swaying back and forth.
Hanna, who was now frustrated because he's a professional at this.
Yeah.
He yells down at Hash, "Do it." And another deputy leaned on the switch, which sent Bethea 8 feet down to his death. Rainey Bethea's neck was instantly broken. Sheriff Thompson watched the hanging from a vehicle nearby, and when it was over, she started the car and drove away.
Oh, wow.
Bethea had requested that his body be sent to his sister in South Carolina for her to have buried, but was instead buried in a pauper's grave at the Elmwood Cemetery in Owensboro. A pauper's grave is a grave paid for by the public because the deceased person's family could not afford one, which wasn't the case here. It was just the final FU to Rainey Bethea.
Yeah.
So after the hanging, things were quite crazy. All of these newspapers had come to cover the first public hanging by a woman sheriff, and all they got was a drunk guy who couldn't get it done. Needless to say, they were pretty pissed off and started fabricating stories about what had actually happened that day.
Of course.
I mean, they're talking like stories came out where the people after his hanging rushed the scaffold and were like tearing pieces of the guy's clothing for souvenirs, and
oh, come on,
and how it was like a botched execution, and I mean, they had to have some type of story.
Yeah.
They spent all this money and time to get these people there because they thought a woman was going to execute a man. The first woman sheriff was going to execute a guy, and it didn't happen.
Well, that's the media for you.
Phil Hanna stated that Hash should not have been allowed to perform the execution in his state, and said it was the worst display he had experienced in the 70 hangings that he had been a part of. Due to the media circus surrounding the execution, Kentucky legislature would change. This was the final public hanging in history.
Wow.
I can see why.
Yeah.
And it was a cluster.
Yeah.
Sounds like it.
That is the story of Rainey Bethea.
Good stuff.
What do you got for me, Rick?
Good job.
All right. If you haven't done so, go to our Facebook page, give us a like. Any comments, questions, or ideas, you can email us at eviltransgression@gmail.com. Dustin?
Go to eviltransgression.com, check out the links. And don't forget to tweet at our guy, Sword and Scale.
Sword and Scale. Twitter.
Sword and Scale.
Yeah.
Mike Boudet. Be like, hey, Evil Transgression collab needs to happen.
Yes.
So, let's do it. Let's get this shit huge.
Woof.
So huge.
Yeah.
A big poo.
Yeah.
Definitely check out the links. Get your merchandise. Represent the evil mob.
Yes.
Send us pictures of you in your Evil Transgression gear.
Yes.
And be featured on eviltransgression.com under the name of Faces of the Evil Mob. And love us.
That's right.
Love is hard.
Just don't ever stop loving us.
Love is hard.
Love us so hard. All right, so until next time.
See ya.
See ya.
Peace.